second thing that could happen with DABC is they could give you the graph, and you have to work out backwards what was all there to begin with. So, can you see the center line? There's a couple of things you can do for the center line. One, you can try to guess where it is, right? Should I do a bad guess, or should I do a good guess? Just start with a good guess. Okay, I'm going to guess it's here, because that looks about halfway between the maximum and the minimum. If I guessed it was here at y equals 1, then it should be exactly the same distance to my maximum. And I notice that here, from here to my maximum is up 5. From here to my minimum, 1 down to is also 5. So then I know that that is the center line. And the nice thing about using that as a check for your center line, not only did you figure out that your d value was equal to -1, you also figured out your amplitude was 5. We have a formula that says our period is 2 pi over our b value. Rearranging that formula tells us that our b value is 2 pi over our period. Yeah.
Or did you not be 1?
Yes, positive 1. Thank you. Look at that. Saved it. Our d value is a positive 1. Did I label it? No, I labeled it 1 here. So when we want to write our b value is 2 pi over a period, and we need to count our period. I'm going to show you a couple of strategies for counting the period if you have a graph. Okay? I find it's easy to see a period from min to min or max to max. That's a very easy way to see a period, especially when starting at 0. Sometimes starting at 0 is a good strategy. But here, 0 is at an awkward spot. Okay? So I'm going to use minimum to minimum in this case. And when if I count, my period is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 boxes. Now you will not be able to write an equation which has 2 pi over 8 boxes in your equation. But this is going to help us figure out what it is. If we can figure out what 1 box is equal to, and can you see that 2 boxes is already labeled for us at pi over 16? Does it make sense that 1 box then would be half of that is pi over 12? And if we counted our period was 8 of these boxes to go over, then our period would equal 8 times pi over 12, which reduces nicely to 2 pi over 3. So sometimes you can use the strategy of starting at 0. But you see my starting at 0 point is a kind of an awkward point. But if I go straight across and say, when do I have that again? That awkward point happens again at 2 pi over 3. So if you can use 0, it's really nice because the answer just shows up on the x-axis. That from that orange dot to that orange dot is 2 pi over 3, so my period is 2 pi over 3. Often, though, they don't even label those points, or maybe the graph is not drawn to scale. So then using a minimum to a minimum or a maximum to a maximum, and sometimes people use a minimum to a maximum and just say that's half of it and double their answer in the end. So I got my period to be 2 pi over 3. That means that I can calculate my b value by plugging in my period. 2 pi divided by 2 pi over 3. How do you divide by a fraction? Dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. Nicely, my 2 pi's simplify. And so I get my b value to be 3. Now we have figured out everything except our c value. In fact, I'm going to start writing out the equation. I know that my a value is 5. The question said write it in terms of sign, so I know I need to have sign. I know my b value is 3. I'm going to put brackets in factored form. I'm going to leave a space for my c value, and I know that my b value is plus 1. Now, for your c value, you actually have some options. There's more than one right answer for your c value. But first of all, since we're doing a sign graph, and I'll color code this so we have different starting points in different places, okay? Since we're doing a sign graph, where does a sign graph normally start? It starts in the middle, going up. So can I find a point on my graph in the middle going up? Yes, right here is in the middle going up. I'll label that one in green. Can you see that that one is 3 boxes to the right? So how do I shift to the right? I would have a minus, and in each box is pi over 12. So 3 boxes would be 3 pi over 12. You could reduce that to pi over 4 if you liked, but you could leave it as minus 3 pi over 12. Option number 2. Everything else would stay the same, but what if I chose, and this time I'm going to use purple. Here's another place in the middle going up. Would you agree? But this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 boxes to the right. So then I would have to write 11 pi over 12s to the right. That also would be an answer. Okay? Probably if I were you, it makes sense to choose the closest one because it's less counting. But I want to show you that there's more than one right answer. Especially if this was a multiple choice question, because sometimes in a multiple choice question, your first answer doesn't show up. And I'm going to show you one more. I'll do this one in orange. Sometimes you can have a sign graph start in the middle going down. Here's middle going down. That would mean your sign graph needed a vertical reflection. So in this last one, I'm going to add a negative out in front as a result. And this has just shifted 1 box to the left, so that would be plus pi over 12. We could do another one at another place where it was in the middle going down. If we extended this graph, we could have hundreds of them, right? You want to make my life miserable on your test? You can go like 12,000 ticky marks to the right and find one way far to the right and write it down as the shift. And you'd be like, all sneaky, Mr. JR has to figure this out. I'd be like, whatever, I'm not going to figure it out. I'll just give you 0 on that part, and then you have to come and argue why it's right. And if you do, so like,
Didn't simplify.
I'm not sure. I'm gonna just circle it. I don't know if this is right. And then you'd have to come in and argue. And then I'd give you the point eventually. But yeah, you'll probably want to choose one that's the easiest, right? I don't mind this negative one because it's pretty close, right? That's pretty easy counting the squares. So the negative ones sometimes are just as easy as the positive ones. But I wanted to show you that there's more than one right answer if you're given a graph. And the other thing that we didn't even do is, and I'm going to just write one of them down, because the question said, right, the question said right here in terms of sin x. But sometimes it might just say write an equation of the sinusoidal graph without saying, do you have to choose sine or do you have to choose cos? So I could do the same thing with 5 and cos. And the b value is still 3. And the d value is still +1. But with a cos graph, and I'll color code this one in blue, a cos graph starts at a maximum. So if I wanted to do a cos graph, I'd find a maximum, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes to the right. And I'd have minus 5 pi over 12. So any sinusoidal graph, you can choose whether you want to make it a sine graph or a cosine graph. Either one of those would be fine. All right, questions for practice on this one are 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we have 5 minutes, and I actually want you to start trying some of these.